Alex, I am so thrilled to be talking to you a week after you started your new job. So thank you so much for making the time. I know that you've carved out time in the evening. So the first question I'll pose to you is who who was Alex Alejandro before you did the program at Stack?
Before Stack, like my background was in teaching, so I
Mhm.
was just like a teacher pretty much. And I really like teaching because I'm able to interact with different people, like different kids, and put together my own lessons and just really understand what I'm teaching people and just help them understand like what I'm teaching them.
So you were an educator before and you taught sexual health to teenagers 12 to 17. What else should we know about you before you joined the Stack community?
Well, just I've always been like a hard worker. Like I always put myself out there, like to just work hard, like in anything. Especially played sports all my life, so I was always known as like the hustler on the team. Like yeah, I had
Mm,
skills, but it was mostly like,
the
okay,
hustler.
we'll put you in, Alex, and you do the dirty work, get the rebounds, get on the floor, dive for loose balls, do whatever it takes. And I just like embrace that role. And I feel like just embracing that role in sports, it kind of like transitioned into like my life where I'm always just trying to do what other people don't want to do to just kind of reach that next level. So I feel
That's
like that's kind
awesome.
of very important. That's still something I try to do today, just constantly just working hard and just because I want to work hard to where I want to be.
I love that. So you were the person that was always willing to go in. You're diving for the loose balls. You're willing to hit the floor, not scared of anything. So how did that mentality as the hustler, I like this, help you transition or help you take the first step to doing this course? Like what prompted you to actually take the leap and do this course?
It was just completely like new to me. Like before, like last year or before, like I took the program, I never looked at anything for coding. Just like maybe in high school I took a class, but I didn't really take it seriously because I was like, oh, I'm never going to be doing this anyway. And it turns out I end up doing it, which is kind of weird. But
Yeah.
so before, like I had literally zero experience. Like I thought coding was like when I watched like the movie The Matrix, like all like the things just start popping up on the screen. I thought that's what I'm like, yeah, coding seems so complicated. Like I'll never be able to do that if that's how
Yeah.
it looks like. But then with the whole pandemic and like I ended up like obviously a lot of people ended up losing their jobs, so it's kind of just sitting around and like, I didn't really know what to do. So then I just started going through YouTube and just keep YouTubing, and then I heard about coding boot camps. I was like, hey, I wonder if there's a coding boot camp around my area. So I just Googled like, hey, like what's like Massachusetts coding boot camp, and then I saw one at Worcester State University. I was like, hey, there's actually one pretty close by, and it's about to start in like 2 weeks, so maybe I should like sign up. And like it took me like a good week to like finally make that decision because I was like,
Mm,
hey, like, do I even want to do this? Like, is this even me? Like,
yeah.
what if I join and then I hate it? And then I don't know, like I spend money and then I
Yeah.
just lose it all because I end up just hating it. So I was like, hey, you know what? Like sometimes I feel like you just have to take risk, even if you don't know like the outcome, like just take the risk. And then I ended up just signing up, and then now we're here, and I feel really good about my decision.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny? Hindsight does that, right? When you're like, it's always fun to relive these stories of these inflection points and these decisions of should you or should you not do it. Because
Mhm.
look, as you said, this is not an insignificant investment in time or money. So you spent like quite a bit of your own time digging and being
Yeah,
curious. It's not like you saw the program and you're like, coding, I think I'll do that.
yeah.
Right? Like you're like, why not? So tell me about your experience in the program. What were some of the best parts and what were some of the most challenging parts of the program?
After just leaving like that first like orientation like day, I guess, I was just like, oh my God, like I might not even know what I'm doing here. I was just like debating so much. I'm like, should I even continue? It seems so complicated. What if everybody like I feel like what if everyone else already knows this and I'm the only one who doesn't know what I'm doing? But it's really not like that, like after you look at it. But the best parts were during the classes when we were able to break out into groups and work with people, because like it gives you a chance to see how other people think about problems, and also just meeting that other person like as a person, like regardless of like coding together, it's more like meeting them and like building a relationship with someone on a more personal level. And then once you establish that, then it's easier to just work on different problems together and just solve it together. So I think that's the best part about the whole program, is just working together with people. And you don't feel like you're just on your own trying to figure things out. Like I feel like that's like an overview of like my experience, I guess.
That's great. No, that's great. And I love that you gave that advice of like, look, the first day of orientation, I was like, oh no, I'm in over my head. And as you said, every single person, when they start something new, there's always that self-doubt that creeps in. I think it's a very human thing to experience, is like, am I really cut out for something like this?
Mhm.
Especially something intense like that. Do you have advice on how to help people like think through that inflection point? Because that's an important inflection point.
Is just talking to somebody else. Like it's easier to just, instead of just being in your own head, like kind of like step back and like talk to somebody and try to figure out like, oh, what do you want to do, and like help you push through overall.
Okay, that's great advice. After you completed the course, you were pretty diligent and committed to career support. For those who have not really experienced any kind of career coaching, career support, career services, can you tell them about it?
I think that was like one of the best parts about the whole program, because sometimes people think that like, hey, I'll just go through the program, then I'm done, and then boom, I magically just start working. Like it's not like that. Like maybe like I felt like that in the beginning too. Like, oh, maybe I'll just complete the course, but then like I realized like, hey, like you have to put in the work. Like you might have to put in more work after the whole course than you did like in the course. Like
Yeah.
it could be like that. Like you never know. So I feel like it's important just to keep going, but I feel like it definitely keeps you accountable,
Mhm.
because you do have those weekly goals of like, oh, meet with 3 people or message 5 people, reaching out about a specific role they have, and just try to connections. Basically, like most people end up getting their job through a connection. So I feel like it does keep you accountable and make sure that you do the work every week, because it just doesn't stop when you finish the program. You got to keep going and going. Like I'm not gonna lie, like the first month and a half of career support, I was just so scared to send out any message to anybody, because I was like, oh, I feel so dumb. Like, what if they think I'm like just trying to get something from them? Like, how do I be natural about it? Like all these things in my head. And then once it started working, then that kind of gives you that confidence boost. Like, hey, like, people actually want to talk to me. So I feel that was like an important thing, and that's what they really push in the career support that I think actually works and it's really helpful.
Let me ask you this. What advice would you give your younger self? And you get to choose however young Alex is.
I guess maybe like take risk, because
Mhm.
when I was like younger, I guess, even though I'm still pretty young, I was afraid to take risks, because like you're like, what if this person thinks this about me, or what if this person says no, or what if this person says, oh, you're dumb for even saying that. So I feel like it's important just to take a risk, because you never know if you'll get like what you're looking for eventually.
Yeah. How about this? What advice would you give people who find themselves in your shoes? The pandemic was in some ways a blessing in disguise, because you lost your job and then you had to figure out what to do next. And
Mhm.
then you found yourself here, and here you are. We're still in the pandemic, but you have moved on,
Yeah.
to your next chapter in coding. And so what advice would you give people who, maybe have also lost their way during the pandemic, or have lost their current livelihood during the pandemic, and they're trying to figure out what's next, and they're trying to figure out their inflection point? What advice would you give them?
Like definitely some advice I would give is like, hey, like your whole life like isn't over. Like every like you always have these like roadblocks in life, but you have to figure out a way to get over it. And just like thinking about like, hey, like if you keep thinking that it's not going to be over and that you're never going to achieve something, then you're literally just never going to achieve it, because you're just putting it out there that you're not going to achieve it. So how are you going to achieve something if you're already saying like, I'm not going to be able to achieve it? So I feel like that's important, just telling yourself to like, hey, like this is one, like although it could be something major, it's going to be, but it's going to get better if you work hard.
Alex, I am so glad that we finally got to sit down and you squeezed me into your busy
Same.
work schedule, because hearing your story and having you share your struggles and your moments of self-doubt, I think are so important for others who are getting ready to navigate an inflection point or thinking about it or really in the midst of it, because we know that it's always so hard trying to make a change.
Yeah, definitely.
It's never easy and it's never smooth, and there's always, you know, unexpected twists and turns and bends in the road.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing your story. I am inspired by you, and I know that others are too. Thank you so much, Alex.
No problem. Thank you, Peggy.